Chapter 753. The immortal weapon that fainted from anger. A few days later, even the carefree Beiming and the other three found a few high-grade spirit weapons, but Chujiu still found nothing. Although Beiming and the others wanted to give the high-grade spirit weapons to Chujiu, those high-grade spirit weapons were under the command of the weapon spirit, and they desperately hid themselves, obviously unwilling to acknowledge Chujiu as their master. Chujiu was furious. Damn it. If you guys don't want to acknowledge me as your master, I won't even care about you guys. A bunch of useless trash. If I want to look for something, I have to at least look for an immortal grade spirit tool. Maybe I can even find a divine tool. The dream was well developed, but reality was rudimentary. After a few more days, Chujiu did not even find a spirit tool, let alone an immortal grade or divine tool. After a few more days passed, almost everyone who entered the ancient sword tomb found a high-grade spirit weapon. Some even found a few pieces. However, Chujiu was the only one who still could not find anything. Wuxia initially comforted Chujiu, saying that the meal is remembered long after the wait was forgotten one. Later on, he did not have the energy to find any more loopholes. If this continued, forget about a good meal. He reckoned that she would not even be able to have a bad one. At that time, everyone had already reached the depths of the ancient sword tomb. It was as if they had been injected with stimulants as they searched even harder, hoping to find immortal artifacts there. Chujiu felt that the hope was slim, so she simply stopped searching. She sat on the ground and took out a spirit fruit to eat. Sigh, I can only rely on eating to alleviate my sadness. Fuck, maybe that old bastard Heavens is trying to trick me again. Wuxia felt something hurt his foot. He raised his foot to take a look, and his long and narrow phoenix eyes immediately flashed with surprise. Haha. Bless people don't need to work HRD. It's actually an immortal grade heavenly ruler. Hearing Wuxia's words, everyone gathered around. They saw that Wuxia was holding a heavenly ruler that was surrounded by a glow. The body of the ruler was made of 10,000-year-old refined iron, and the handle was also made of an extinct divine tree iron core. It was indeed an immortal level weapon. Everyone was envious. Although some people revealed greedy expressions, they immediately dismissed the idea when they saw Wuxia's unfathomable cultivation. Wuxia handed the ruler to Chujiu. Little sister Jiu, this is for you. Before Chujiu could express herself, the ruler flew behind Wuxia with a whoosh. It was obvious that it did not like Chujiu. The anger that had accumulated in Chujia's heart for many days finally exploded. She pointed at the ruler with her hands on her waist and cursed. Damn it! You actually despise me so much? Look at your strange appearance. Not only are you not a sharp knife, you even copied the shape of other people's swords. You really learned well. You don't even have a blade. You idiot. You're a little slut that can't even come close to a sword. The ruler began to tremble violently. It was obvious that it was furious. It could not tolerate the fact that an immortal item like it was being insulted by her. I'll slap you to death. The measuring ruler charged toward Chujiu with an ancient might. Chujiu naturally would not stay where she was and let it hit her. After the fellow dodged, she cursed even more furiously. You little bitch. You actually want to slap me? You're shameless. Look at your stupid look. You call yourself an immortal item? Tui. You blind little bitch. Ever since the ruler gained consciousness, it had never suffered such humiliation. It was so angry that it fell to the ground with a choking sound. It was actually angered to the point of fainting by Chujiu. Chujiu rubbed her nose nonchalantly. Brother Wuxia, the mental endurance of this measuring ruler is too weak. You should keep it for yourself. Chapter 754. Can't even compare to my big kitchen knife. Whether it was Wuxia or the onlookers, they were all dumbfounded. Oh my god, isn't this Chujiu too abnormal? She actually made the immortal tool faint. Such a strange occurrence is simply unheard of. It seemed that Chujia's heavenly thunder root spirit was indeed not favored by the heavens. Even the spirit tools and immortal tools in the ancient sword tomb were not willing to acknowledge her as their master. It was likely that she would not be able to achieve anything in her life. Who knows? She might be struck by lightning one day. Su Yanran stood behind the crowd with a cold smile on her face. Yin Chujiu, so what if you have a heavenly thunder root spirit? In terms of spiritual power, you're not as strong as me. In terms of opportunities, you are the target that the heavens wants to kill. You will never be able to compare to me. Only then did Shui Wuji come back to his senses. He put away the heavenly ruler that had fainted on the ground into his storage ring. He wanted to comfort Yin Chujiu, but he felt that everything he said was a little lackluster and did not carry weight. He dryly said, "Little sister Jiu, you can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. Don't be anxious. You will definitely find a good treasure." Yin Chujiu said proudly, It's because these pieces of junk don't have good taste and don't recognize me as their master. I don't even like them. In my opinion, they're not as practical as this big kitchen knife of mine." Yin Chujiu took out the big kitchen knife from her storage ring and said proudly, "This big kitchen knife of mine can cut wood and vegetables. It can kill demonic beasts and help me dig herbs. It's much better than those flashy pieces of junk." Shui Wuji coughed dryly. "Little sister Jiu is right. This big kitchen knife of yours is indeed different from the others. It's much better than my broken ruler." The corners of the onlookers' eyes twitched violently. "Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning for lying? The kitchen knife in Yin Chujiu's hand was used to cut vegetables, okay? It could not even be considered a spiritual weapon. Plus, there was a nick in the knife. It was probably discarded by the big kitchen, so how could it be compared to the ruler? It was as if one was in the sky and the other was underground." When Yin Chujiu heard Shui Wuji's words, she waved the kitchen knife a few times and said, "Although the level of this spirit tool is important, its practicality is more important. Even if someone used an immortal tool to exchange for this kitchen knife, I would not exchange it with him." Everyone's lips twitched. "You're dreaming. Unless someone is crazy, they would not exchange an immortal weapon for this broken kitchen knife. Forget about immortal weapons, even if they gave it to us for free, we would not want this piece of junk." What everyone did not notice was that when Yin Chujiu said those words, the large kitchen knife actually trembled slightly. However, the vibration was very slight, and even Yin Chujiu herself did not notice it. She then kept the large kitchen knife into her storage ring, sat down on the ground and took out a spirit fruit to eat. When everyone saw that there was no more excitement to watch, they scattered and continued to search for treasures. Beiming saw that Yin Chujiu was a little disappointed and wanted to comfort her. However, after thinking for a long time, he could not think of a good excuse. He felt that there was something under his feet that was in the way, so he kicked it in frustration. He did not expect that that thing would actually fly into Beiming's hand on its own accord. It was actually a treasure sword that was shining with cold light. Although Beiming tried his best to suppress the urge to shout out, he still exclaimed in a low voice, "This sword is an immortal item." Although Beiming's voice was not loud, everyone was too sensitive to the word immortal item, so they immediately gathered around. Yin Chujiu glanced at the treasure sword that was shining in Beiming's hand and thought sourly, "What's so great about it? Isn't it just a sword? Cheap thing." Chapter 755. Yin Chujiu thought of a good idea. Everyone looked at the sword in Beiming's hand and was very envious. They could not help but discuss in low voices. "It's really an immortal item. And it's a mid-grade immortal item too. How lucky. It's really infuriating to compare." He didn't even bother to look for it, but this immortal sword actually flew into his hand. To put it bluntly, this weapon spirit is also willing to choose the stronger person to be its master. Didn't Yun Chuling just get the heavenly ruler to acknowledge him as its master? What you said makes sense. Indeed, people with high spiritual power have a higher chance of getting a spiritual weapon. Beiming was a little conflicted. He wanted to give the treasure sword to Yin Chujiu, but he was afraid that the same thing would happen to the heavenly ruler. He did not want to give it to her, but he was also afraid that Yin Chujiu would be angry. "Little Jiu, I'll give this sword to you." Beiming thought for a while, and decided to give it a try. Maybe this sword did not mind the black thing. Before Yin Chujiu could say anything, the sword began to hum. It tried its best to dodge, obviously unwilling to do so. Everyone's gaze naturally fell on Yin Chujiu. They looked at her with disdain, ridicule, schadenfreude, and sympathy. If it were anyone else, they would have been embarrassed to death. However, it was clear that Chujiu was not an ordinary person. Chujiu curled her lips. Prince Charming, keep it for yourself. I'm no longer interested in immortal artifacts. Only a divine artifact can match up to a genius like me. Everyone pursed their lips. This girl was too shameless. Divine artifact? Do you think that divine artifacts are cabbages? There might not even be a divine artifact appearing in thousands of years. Moreover, even if a divine artifact appeared, it would not acknowledge a person who was hated by the heavens as its master. Beiming had no choice but to put away the sword. He knew Chujiu's character very well. Although she said that she did not care, she must be feeling very uncomfortable in her heart. This fellow usually liked to take advantage of others, but now that she could not get anything, there must be something wrong if she was happy. When everyone saw Beiming put away the immortal sword, they dispersed and continued to search for spiritual weapons. Chujiu curled her lips. What was so great about it? The rolling pin was an immortal artifact too. She even had a divine artifact like the Great Void Mirror in her dantian. Although there were 6 gaps, it was still a divine artifact with gaps. Although this fellow comforted herself, she still felt sad in her heart. These were all ancient spiritual artifacts, and they even had artifact spirits. Just thinking about it was very awesome, right? She did not believe that there was none who knew what was good for it. Thinking of this, Chujiu suddenly stood up and waved her claws. Let's walk forward. I don't believe that these spirit tools are all so stupid. Beiming and Wuxia did not say anything in tacit understanding. They quietly followed behind Chujiu. Chujiu took out a rolling pin and started searching. She did not know if those spirit tools had hidden in advance. In short, Chujiu had been searching for a long time, but she still could not find a single soul. If it were anyone else, they would probably have left the ancient sword tomb in a fit of anger. Chujiu would never give up easily, especially when there was such a great opportunity to make a fortune. Prince Charming, Brother Wuxia, little madman, Hua, I've thought of a good idea. These stupid spirit tools must be hiding from me. You guys should be searching around 10 feet away from me. You guys will definitely catch a bunch of them. Let's meet and split it in half. If you guys find the spirit tools, share some of the spirit stones with me. I can't go back empty-handed, right? The lot was speechless. Chapter 756. It's gold that will shine sooner or later. Little sister Jiu, this spirit tool hunt isn't like catching rabbits, so how can you catch a nest of them? However, I think the new name Little Madman is much better than the old one. And Feng, Wuxia said with a smile. And Feng's eyes twitched violently. Shadow Agent Hua looked at him sympathetically, thinking to himself, you should be content. No matter what, Little Madman is better than my name Hua. Brother Wuxia, why don't you give it a try? Come on. Let's start casting our nets to catch the spirit tools. Chujiu could not suppress the excitement in her heart when she thought about how she was going to make a fortune. Beiming and Wuxia saw how excited Chujiu was, so they could only scatter around Chujiu and start searching for the spirit tools. Chujiu grabbed the extended rolling pin and started rummaging around. As expected, Beiming and the others soon found various items. Although it was not as big as Chujiu said, the number was indeed considerable. Chujiu put her hands on her waist and laughed loudly. Gold will shine sooner or later. This is called reverse thinking. This is called cooperation for a win-win situation. You think only you idiots with spiritual power can defeat me? And Feng was speechless as he looked at Chujiu, who was laughing so hard that she was rocking back and forth. He thought to himself, Miss Jiu has been holding it in for so long. She can finally let it out. However, Miss Jiu is really smart. Why didn't I think of this? Come on, teammates. Let's continue to sweep. Let's strive for each of you to get 180 spiritual weapons. When that time comes, I'll be rich. Chujiu was so ecstatic, she was about to explode. Very soon, someone noticed the actions of Chujiu and the others. Each and every one of them was envious. As long as they robbed them, they would be rich. However, when those people saw the spiritual power of Beiming and the other 3, They immediately backed out. They could only watch helplessly as Chujiu and the others easily scooped up the fishes. Chujiu swept away the dissatisfaction from before and laughed like a madman. Ha ha ha. The sun always shines after the storm. The fragrance of the plum blossoms comes after the bitter cold. Without experiencing the storm, how can one see the rainbow? Whoever laughs last is the best. These words are all about me. Ha ha ha. Beiming curled the corner of his mouth. The little black thing's smug look is really cute. The deeper they went, the more spirit tool remains were on the ground. This was because the remnant souls of the ancient cultivators had started to stop them from continuing in. Since the remnant souls of these ancient cultivators were too strong in their resentment or obsession, they did not dissipate for tens of thousands of years. These remnant souls were dissatisfied that their resting place had been disturbed, so they were naturally very resistant to the people who came in. Moreover, they were used to seeing all kinds of ugly scenes of these cultivators fighting over spirit tools, so they hated the people who came in. Moreover, they were all fueled by resentment and obsession. The longer it lasted, the more paranoid they became. Why were they all dead? But these people were still alive. These people deserved to die. Although they had died for tens of thousands of years, the remnant spirit energy was still very overwhelming. Therefore, many people could not walk forward anymore. Chujiu was very curious as she looked at the remnant soul that blocked her way. Although it was only a remnant soul, it could use spirit energy to transform into its original appearance. The person who blocked Chujiu's way was a tough and stocky-built middle-aged man wearing golden armor. His face was ferocious, and he wanted to slap everyone in front of him to death. "Uncle, the armor on you is really impressive." Not only was Chujiu not afraid at all, she even praised the armor of the middle-aged man with a smile. The middle-aged man was a little confused. He had met countless cultivators in the past tens of thousands of years. After seeing him, some were afraid, some were curious, some were resentful, and some were disdainful. This was the first time he had met a weirdo who was smiling and chatting with him. Chapter 757. About to trap the remnant soul again, cut the crap and get lost. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. After the middle-aged man was stunned for a moment, he roared fiercely. "Uncle, your voice is simply too sonorous and powerful. No wonder you can become a great general. One look and I can tell that you are a person of great ability." Chujiu was still smiling, showing no signs of fear. Although the middle-aged man felt that this little girl in front of him was a little strange, he felt a strange sense of satisfaction in his heart. Back then he was also a mighty general. He had heard countless flattering words like this, but ever since he became this remnant soul, he had never heard it again. He did not expect to hear such flattering words again. Moreover, she said it so sincerely. This little girl was more pleasing to the eye than the other trash that passed by. When you were a general, you had a lot of people under you, right? Chujiu saw that the expression of the burly man had eased up, so she had some confidence in her heart. Humph. That's natural. Back then, I had thousands of soldiers under my command. The burly man recalled the glory of the past, and his face showed a proud expression. "Oh my God, you actually have so many people under your command? I knew it. Just one look at your imposing manner, and I knew that you're different from the rest. You are indeed a peerless hero. I really admire you." Chujiu's face revealed a look of admiration at the right time. "Humph. What's the big deal? I just find it troublesome. Otherwise, not to mention thousands of people, even tens of thousands of people would not be a problem. You're really amazing. Did you lead your men to win many battles?" "Of course. When I led my men back then." Beiming and Wuxia looked at each other with a rare tacit understanding. Then, the corner of their eyes twitched. The people around them were fighting with the remnant souls that were blocking their way. Only Chujiu was engaged in a lively conversation. No matter how they looked at it, it seemed strange. Feng stood at the back and lit a candle for the burly man. If Miss Jiu praised someone with all her might, it was likely that she was going to trick them. This burly man looked like he had courage but no brains. He was just waiting to be tricked. Not only did Miss Jiu trick people, she could also trick beasts and weapon spirits. Now she did not even let go of the remnant souls. Miss Jiu, I only have one word for you. Respect. The burly man told Yin Chujiu about his heroic deeds. Yin Chujiu nodded repeatedly when she heard it. Your life is truly magnificent. It's truly admirable. Ever since the burly man became a remnant soul, he had not said so much. He felt as if he had become the high-spirited general again, and not a remnant soul that was struggling on its last breath. The burly man let out a long sigh. What's the use of saying that? No matter how powerful I am, I still became a remnant soul. I can't even reincarnate. I can only live in this cage until my soul disintegrates. Why can't you reincarnate? Yin Chujiu asked curiously. The burly man smiled bitterly. We remnant souls are sinners that aren't tolerated by the heavens. We will still struggle to survive in this place. Once we leave this place, we will immediately be struck by heavenly lightning, and our souls will disintegrate. Uncle, what did you do to offend the heavens? Yin Chujiu asked curiously. The burly man was about to tell her the whole story when he suddenly hugged his head and rolled on the ground. Yin Chujiu was shocked. Damn, did this uncle do something wrong? The burly man's figure became fainter and fainter until he disappeared. Chapter 758. Will be in my bowl soon. Yin Chujiu was dumbfounded. What was going on? She only asked one question, and the remnant soul was already dead? Was that not mysterious? Beiming and the other three were also confused. What was going on? This ancient remnant soul should be very powerful. Why did it suddenly disappear? Just as they were puzzled, the remnant soul condensed into a figure again, but it was much lighter than before. He smiled bitterly and said, We were actually bound and can't tell you what happened back then. Just now, I was punished just because I wanted to tell you. Yin Chujiu blinked her eyes and then began to howl. Sob sob. You're so pitiful. People always say that they want to die, but you can't even die. Heavens, that old bastard is really too much. The burly man was dumbfounded. Little girl, how can you scold the heavens? Aren't you afraid of being punished by the heavens? He came back to his senses and said in fear. Yin Chujiu touched her tears with her sleeve. The heavens is being unfair. Why can't I scold it? It has long disliked me. If I wasn't lucky, I would have been struck to ashes by that old bastard. The big man asked puzzledly, You? Why does the heavens want to kill you? Yin Chujiu waved her right hand, and a purple heavenly lightning struck a stone beside her. The stone was instantly split into two halves. Why you actually have the heavenly lightning root spirit. No wonder the heavens doesn't tolerate you. I didn't expect that you, this little girl, would be so lucky to be alive and kicking. The big man was extremely surprised. A heavenly root spirit had never been tolerated by the heavens. This little girl was really lucky. Humph. That old bastard must have felt that our heavenly root spirit would be a threat to it if it became refined. That's why it wants to strangle us while we're in the cradle. It's really petty and jealous of talents. Yin Chujiu curled her lips and said. The burly man laughed bitterly. Even though he felt that what Yin Chujiu said was not unreasonable, he did not dare to say anything wrong about the heavens. Just a moment ago, he just wanted to say what happened back then, and his soul was almost scattered. Yin Chujiu suddenly smiled and clapped her hands. She waved at the burly man and said, Let's talk in private. I want to tell you something awesome. We can't let other people and souls hear it. If someone else had said that to the burly man would have slapped him to death. However, because Yin Chujiu had a heavenly thunder root spirit, and was not killed by the heavens, he was a little curious. He followed Yin Chujiu to a corner and asked, Little girl, what good news do you want to tell me? You said that you'd be struck to death by lightning if you went outside. If you hid somewhere, would the heavens still be able to strike you? Yin Chujiu asked mysteriously. The burly man was stunned. Obviously, he did not expect Yin Chujiu to talk about this matter. He smiled bitterly and said, Little girl, thank you for your kindness. However, this is basically impossible. First, we're only remnant souls and cannot stay outside for too long. We must enter the green jade tools that only existed in ancient times to be nourished. Otherwise, we will gradually disappear from the world. Second, Do you think that the heavens is so easily deceived? Those who have the soul-nurturing tools would also be punished by the heavens. Who would take such a great risk to bring us along? Unless he doesn't want to live anymore. Yin Chujiu cheered in her heart. The person who didn't want to live is me. It's me. It's me. Quickly come into my bowl. Chapter 759. Ancient Green Jade Bottle. Yin Chujiu looked around. This place was very remote, and there were very few spirit tool remains on the ground. There were no people or remnant souls around. In addition, Beiming and the other three were on guard, so they were not afraid of being spied on. This girl sneakily took out a small jade bottle from her storage ring. Do you think the material of this jade bottle is the kind of ancient green jade you mentioned? The burly man took it and looked at it for a while. Then he said excitedly, "Yes, that's right. This is the ancient green jade. Where did you get it?" Yin Chujiu's eyes smiled. "Don't worry about where I got it. Tell me, can this small jade bottle hold your remnant soul?" The burly man nodded. "Don't think that this jade bottle is small. This kind of ancient green jade is the best material to nourish the soul. A jade bottle can hold at least 10 remnant souls." After the burly man finished speaking, he saw Yin Chujiu smiling so much that her eyelashes were about to blossom. Yin Chujiu, this fellow, gave herself 360 praises in her heart. "Oh my God! I'm not letting go of anything. My habit of plucking the feathers of wild geese is simply too awesome." These small jade bottles were all collected from the Wuwei Tower's weapon spirit. I originally wanted to use it to increase the grade of the pills, but I didn't expect to actually pick up a treasure. To tell you the truth, I don't have many of these small jade bottles. I only have about 1,000 of them. Yin Chujiu said proudly. The burly man widened his eyes and waved his hand. "Little girl, this is impossible. This ancient green jade is very precious. How can you have so many? It's good enough for an ordinary person to even have one." Yin Chujiu looked around sneakily again. Then she shouted to Beiming and the others, "Prince Charming, Brother Wuji, don't let others get close. Little sister Jiu, don't worry. I guarantee that no living creature can get to within 1,000 feet from you." Shui Wuji hurriedly tried to curry favor with her. Beiming glanced at him and could not be bothered with him. He carefully observed the situation around him. Since the black thing said so, she was probably going to gain something. Yin Chujiu saw that the surroundings were safer, so she proudly took out a small package from her storage ring and carefully put it on the ground. After opening it, she saw that there were many similar small jade bottles. "This is only a small portion. How is it? I'm not lying to you, right? I'm not very good at other things, but I've never lied," Yin Chujiu said with a sincere expression. And Feng staggered. "Miss Jiu, is it really good for you to lie with your eyes wide open like this? You don't lie? Even a ghost wouldn't believe you. All right, I guess only such a pure remnant soul would believe you." The burly man picked up a few jade bottles and examined them. Indeed, they were all made of ancient green jade. He could not help but look at Yin Chujiu in a new light. This little girl was really capable to be able to collect so many ancient green jade bottles. How would he know that these jade bottles were all stolen by Yin Chujiu? Just because of this matter, Wuwei Tower's weapon spirit was stunned. "You said that this ancient green jade can nourish souls. After your souls are completely nourished, can you be reincarnated or possessed?" The man laughed bitterly. "Little girl, it's not as simple as you think. This ancient green jade can only guarantee our current form. It can't complete our souls." "Then how can we complete your souls?" Yin Chujiu asked curiously. Chapter 760. I am the kindest sigh. It's easier said than done to mend the soul. If we hadn't separated from our physical bodies and consumed pills like the soul-mending pill, we would have slowly recovered. However, at this moment, we only have remnant souls left. If we want to mend our souls, we can only do so by placing ourselves in the Great Soul Replenishing Void Formation. However, the Great Soul Replenishing Void Formation is an ancient formation. It has already been lost during our era, not to mention that tens of thousands of years have passed. There's basically no possibility of finding it. The more the man spoke, the more depressed he became. He felt that the possibility of being able to find the great soul-replenishing void formation was almost zero. This matter is man-made. You guys have endured for tens of thousands of years, so who cares about waiting for a few more years? If your souls are completed, can you be reincarnated or can you possess others? You can't always exist in the form of souls, right? If our souls are complete, we can choose to be reincarnated, but we can't possess because our souls are too strong. Right now, the human body can't withstand it, unless we can. Forget it, the possibility of this is even lower. It's better not to say it, the big man said sadly. Don't. Just say it. Let me broaden my horizons too. Chujiu said with a smile. The big man saw that Chujiu was going to get to the bottom of it, so he could only say, unless someone can find our original bodies. This is even harder than ascending to heaven. What? Your bodies are still there? Oh my God, they haven't rotted for tens of thousands of years? Isn't this too incredible? Where are they now? Chujiu widened her eyes in surprise. The burly man shook his head. I can't tell you this, or else I'll be punished again. Chujiu blinked her eyes. She said with a smile, Am the kindest person. I can't stand to see the heavens bullying an honest person like you. As you can see, I'm here at the right time, the right place, and with the right person. This jade bottle can nourish the soul. And I'm not afraid of being struck by lightning. Are you willing to venture out with me? Although I may not be able to help you recover your soul, and I may not be able to help you find your body, it is still better than waiting for your death here, right? The little black bird secretly cursed. Master, are you really that kind? Don't joke around. You're the most black-hearted person in the world. Thinking back to the time when we were all deceived by your little innocent appearance, but you're actually a little devil without horns on your head. The burly man naturally did not know Chujiu's devilish attribute. He was seriously considering the possibility that Chujiu had mentioned. After a long while he said, Little girl, I need to discuss with the others before I decide. Chujiu nodded. All right. This is a once-in-lifetime opportunity. You must cherish it. To have so many ancient green jade bottles and not be afraid of being struck by lightning. And to have someone as kind as me. This is a once-in-lifetime opportunity. The burly man nodded, and turned into a wisp of black smoke that drifted into the distance. Chujiu waited for the burly man to walk far away before she hopped to Beiming's side with a smile. Prince Charming, I'm going to make another big deal. Beiming patted her little head lovingly. Although these remnant souls still have some spiritual power left, but they have too many restrictions. Why do you still want to take them in? Because I'm kind. I can't bear to see people suffer. Tell me the truth. Well, what if I can find the formation of the Great Void Soul Patching Formation in the future? What if I can find their bodies? At that time, I will actually have hundreds and thousands of ancient cultivators as helpers. Who can compete with me? Ha ha ha. Chujiu thought of the beautiful vision. She was so happy that she almost rolled on the ground. Chapter 761. The Self-Destruction of Divine Artifacts. Beiming was speechless as he looked at Chujiu, who danced from excitement. He sighed. Little Jiu, it's hard to say whether the Great Soul Replenishing Void Formation or the bodies of these ancient cultivators still exist, let alone whether you can obtain them. Your thoughts are too simple. Prince Charming, one must have dreams. What if it comes true? Besides, I don't have anything to do with it. Tiandao already doesn't like me anyway. Chujiu had always been confident in herself. Besides, if these remnant souls agree to go out with me, would they have the face to leave empty-handed? They would definitely let us go in to search for some spirit tools. When that time comes, won't we be rich? Chujiu said slyly. Beiming thought, these last few words just exposed your true intentions. This greedy little thing. Oh right, Prince Charming. What are you and Brother Wuji doing here? Don't say that you're looking for spiritual weapons. I won't believe it. Chujiu asked curiously. Yeah, we're just here to try our luck and see if there's a divine weapon nearby. We heard a divine weapon was appearing in the ancient sword tomb, but the person who came in didn't manage to get it. Divine weapon? What divine weapon? Chujiu's eyes lit up when she heard that there was a divine weapon. The Divine God Axe. Several thousand years ago, someone had seen the Divine God Axe in the ancient sword tomb. No one was able to capture it despite everyone's combined efforts. After that, the Divine God Axe mysteriously disappeared. Although the ancient sword tomb was opened a few more times, no one had ever seen it appear again. Chujiu's eyes lit up even more when she realized that it was the same Divine God Axe mentioned by the chained merman. Other than using a key to open it, only the Divine God Axe might be able to cut through the dark steel chains. It would be great if they could find it. Beiming knew what Chujiu was planning when he saw her had eyes darted around. He could not help but laugh. Little Jiu, I advise you not to have too much hope. No one has found the Divine God Axe in thousands of years. Perhaps the Divine God Axe has already been taken away or self-destructed. Chujiu pouted. Prince Charming, can you not always pour cold water on me? What if the Divine God Axe thinks I'm smart and shamelessly wants to acknowledge me as its master? The corner of Beiming's eyes twitched. Why did he feel that the black thing was not talking about a divine weapon, but more like a fake version of the weapon? Prince Charming, did you just say that perhaps the Divine God Axe has already self-destructed? A divine weapon can self-destruct? Just like how humans self-destruct? Chujiu asked curiously. Beiming nodded. Normal spiritual weapons naturally do not have this kind of supernatural power. However, if the weapon spirits of divine weapons feel that the dignity of a divine weapon has been trampled on, they would rather die than continue their existence. However, their self-destruction is not as tragic as that of humans. Their version of self-destruction is to just fall into hibernation. Hibernation? Back then, the rolling pin also fell into something similar. What does a divine artifact's hibernation look like? Did it also hide underground? The rolling pin was different. It went into dormancy. When a divine artifact falls into hibernation, not only will the artifact's spirit completely fall into hibernation, even the divine artifact will appear as a dull mortal artifact. No one will be able to tell that it is a divine artifact. Beiming explained patiently to Chujiu. Ah, it's hiding in the city. This divine weapon is really smart. That way, even if the Divine God Axe is right in front of us, no one will be able to recognize it. Chujiu giggled. Chapter 762. The Four Great Lords of the Remnant Souls. Beiming nodded. You're right. If the Divine God Axe really chose to hibernate, then no one would notice it at all. It could also be taken out of the ancient sword tomb as a common mortal weapon. Therefore, I'm only here to try my luck. I don't have much hope. Prince Charming, will the divine weapon return to its original form after its self-destruction? Yes, but the probability is very small. Since the weapon spirit has already gone into hibernation, it will be very difficult for anyone to wake it up. Moreover, we have to reignite its fighting spirit for it to survive. For the time being, I haven't heard of such a thing happening. Prince Charming, don't worry. After I subdue those remnant souls, I'll help you ask them. Maybe they know the whereabouts of the Divine God Axe. Chujiu did not even consider whether those remnant souls would reject her. She had this kind of mysterious confidence. Shuewuji also came over and said flatteringly, Little Sister Jiu, if the Divine God Axe appears, you shouldn't help Beiming. When the time comes, we'll rely on our own abilities. Beiming raised his eyebrows. Shuewuji, don't worry. I can deal with you myself. Humph. Who doesn't know how to talk big? Let's see who will win. Shuewuji said indignantly. Seeing that the two of them had fought again, Chujiu took out a rattan chair and sat on it, closing her eyes to rest. Unfeng and Secret Agent Wawa's eyes twitched when they looked at the people in the distance who had stressed looks on their faces, and then at the relaxed Chujiu. The IQ of this person was really different from that of a regular human. Those people risked their lives yet might not be able to get any spirit weapons. As long as Miss Jiu took those remnant souls, wouldn't she be able to find spirit weapons everywhere? Those remnant souls obviously would not make a decision easily. After a few hours, the big man floated back. Little girl, I told the other three lords what you said. They want to see you. Do you dare to follow me to see them? Lord? Uncle, Do you mean that all the remnant souls in this place defer to the four of you? Yin Chujia's heart skipped a beat. This was the best way to avoid having to subdue them one by one. That's right. There are 4 of us in total. Each of us is responsible for managing the remnant souls in a region. When the burly man said this, he could not help but look a little proud. Uncle, you are indeed a hero. When you were born, you were destined to be a hero. When you died a hero. Even as a remnant soul, you will still be one. Yin Chujiu said flatteringly at the right time. The big man was indeed very pleased. He lowered his voice and said, "Little girl, let me give you a simple introduction. The other 3 lords are not easy to get along with. The lord in the south, Fu Ao, is full of schemes. The lord in the west, Ji Lu, is extremely greedy. And the lord in the north, Lu Ji, although charming and beautiful, is actually very ruthless. You must be more careful with your words." "Thank you, uncle. May I know your name?" Yin Chujiu said gratefully. "I am the lord of the eastern remnant souls, Zhu Hao." The big man could not help but feel a little sad when he mentioned his name. If this was a famous name in the past, no one would recognize it now. "Uncle Zhu Hao, if that's the case, bring me to meet the 3 of them." Zhu Hao. Zhu Hao. Yin Chujiu secretly thought that this uncle's name was very auspicious. Seeing that Yin Chujiu agreed without hesitation, Zhu Hao could not help but have a change of heart towards Yin Chujiu. No matter what this little girl was planning, her courage was unlike any other. No wonder she could still keep living her life under the oppression of Tian Dao. Chapter 763. Not interested in old women Beiming, and the other 3 would not let Yin Chujiu go alone, so followed her in. Zhu Hao looked at them and hesitated for a moment. He kept quiet and let them do as they pleased. The people who were fighting were stunned to find that Yin Chujiu and the other 3 were led on by a remnant soul. They walked into the depths without any obstructions. Fuck. Cheating. This was pure cheating. It should not be like this. How could the 5 of them be allowed to enter while we can't? Su Yanran was stunned at first, then a hint of viciousness appeared in her eyes. Then, she turned around and walked towards the exit without batting an eyelid. Yin Chujiu hopped behind Zhu Hao. She greeted the remnant soul who was looking around curiously. "Hi everyone. This elder sister is really beautiful. This elder brother is handsome. This senior has the demeanor of a celestial being. One look and you can tell that he is almighty." Those remnant souls were also dumbfounded. Has our leader gone crazy? Why did he bring these 5 people inside? Forget about the 4 people, their spiritual power was impressive, but what the hell was up with this little girl? Yin Chujiu did not find it tiring. She was ready to get familiar with them first, so she greeted them with all her might. An hour later, they came to a slightly flat place. There were already 3 remnant souls waiting there. "Little girl, this is the Lord of the South, Fu Ao. This is the Lord of the West, Ji Lu. This is the Lord of the North, Lu Ji. The 3 of you, this is the little girl I was talking about." Zhu Hao introduced the 3 remnant soul lords to Yin Chujiu. Yin Chujiu greeted them with a smile, and then quietly observed the 3 of them. The Lord of the South, Fu Ao, was a refined middle-aged man. He looked like a scholar, but there was a flash of brilliance in his eyes. One look and one could tell that he was very shrewd. The Lord of the West, Ji Lu, was a thin and weak little old man. His eyes revealed a look of greed that Yin Chujiu was very familiar with. One look, and one could tell that he was greedy. The one that Yin Chujiu disliked the most was the Lord of the North, Lu Ji. This one had transformed into a beautiful and enchanting woman. She had an attractive figure, and was wrapped only in a layer of gauze. Her chest was faintly discernible, and she kept gesturing towards Beiming. Fuck. She dared to covet her man. How shameless. Just as Yin Chujiu was silently criticizing Lu Ji, she saw Lu Ji smiling at Beiming in a flirtatious manner. This young master is really handsome. I'm tempted. Why don't you stay in this sword tomb and accompany me in the future? Beiming said indifferently. I'm sorry, I'm not interested in old women. Yin Chujiu almost laughed out loud. What the pretty boy said was enough to kill Lu Ji's hopes. Every woman would lose their minds at being called old. You dared to covet my pretty boy. You should be angered to death. Lu Ji was usually proud of her beauty. When she heard Beiming's words, her face immediately twisted. Young master, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I will make you stay. Beiming looked at her coldly, not even bothering to talk to her. Ji's hand suddenly conjured a white dragon and threw it at Beiming. Little enemy, obey me. Beiming dodged and raised his hand. A huge ice dragon roared and pounced at Ji. Ji was shocked and quickly withdrew her white dragon and threw it at the ice dragon. The white dragon was no match for the ice dragon. After a moment, Ji capitulated. Young master, please spare my life. I was just joking. Chapter 764. This is my man. Other three lords were also very surprised when they saw what had happened. This young man's spiritual power was superb. It was rare to see one so powerful at that age. Beiming snorted coldly. The ice dragon turned into nothingness and disappeared. Although Ji's remnant soul still had some spiritual power left, it was all just bravado on the surface. She could not hold on for long. Chujiu immediately straightened her back when she saw that Beiming was so powerful. Damn, those people outside were tormented by the remnant souls, so I thought that these remnant souls were very powerful. I did not expect that they were not a match for the gigolo. She did not even think that Beiming's spiritual power was just that much higher than those people's. Although his spiritual power was suppressed in the Azure Mystic Continent, it still outstripped the others. When the Lord of the South, Fuao, saw that the atmosphere was tense, he quickly tried to smooth things over. Ji is a lively girl. She was just joking. Please don't mind her. Let's talk about business. Little girl, may I borrow that ancient green jade porcelain bottle? Chujiu took out a porcelain bottle and threw it to Fuao. She said faintly, even if you're joking, you have to look at who you're joking with. My man's temper has always been bad. If it wasn't for Uncle Zhuhao, this old woman would have long been finished. Ji couldn't stand Chujiu's words. She immediately conjured her white dragon and directed it at Chujiu. Chujiu dodged and a purple lightning bolt suddenly struck Ji. Damn it. You attacked first. I was just about to teach you a lesson for trying to snatch my man. I'll beat you to death, you little bitch. Souls were very afraid of heavenly lightning. Ji saw that Chujiu indeed had a heavenly thunder root spirit, and she was a little wary of her. However, at this moment, she had no choice but to follow through since she had fired the first shot. She thought that although this little girl had the heavenly thunder spirit root, she was only at the 5th layer of the spirit cultivator realm, so she should be no challenge at all. She just happened to vent her anger on her. At the beginning, Ji had the upper hand. Even her remaining spiritual power was a lot higher than Chujiu's. As the fight wore on, Ji became dumbfounded. Why was this little girl's spiritual power increasing? How could this be the 5th layer of the spirit cultivator realm? Right now, her spiritual power was at the 1st level of the spiritual emperor realm. Furthermore, why did she not even need to form seals to summon the heavenly lightning repeatedly? Even the real heavenly lightning would need to be fired in intervals, alright. This was a monster in a small frame. Chujiu did not care about what she was thinking. The more she fought, the braver she became. She kept waving her hands, and the purple heavenly lightning struck Ji continuously. As time passed, Ji's spiritual power was drained to the point that even her body began to fade. Ji had no choice but to give in. Little girl, I'm joking with you. Let's talk business. Chujiu snorted. If you want me to stop, that's fine. Change those shameless clothes, or I'll kill you. Ji gritted her teeth. However, seeing that the other three lords had no intention of helping her, she could only admit defeat and slowly disappear. When she reappeared, she had changed into a new set of clothes. Although the clothes were very conservative, her eyes and temperament were still very coquettish. Fuao came over again to smooth things over. Alright. It's all a misunderstanding. Let's get down to business. Little girl, I heard from Zhuhao that you're not afraid of being struck by lightning? I can't say that I'm not afraid, but in any case, it's not a problem for me to be struck by lightning repeatedly for 6 hours. Chujiu seemed modest, but in reality, she felt proud. Chapter 765. A choice. Lu Ji pursed her lips. 6 to 10 hours of lightning strikes? Little girl, aren't you exaggerating a little too much? Not to mention 6 to 10 hours. Even if you can withstand 2 hours of repeated lightning strikes, it's already inhuman. Chujiu glanced at her. Humph. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. With you like this, it's good that you don't need me to bring you out. Otherwise, you'll end up embarrassing me. You little. Lu Ji wanted to turn against her, but when she saw Chujiu hit the stone next to her with a bolt of lightning, her aura immediately became a little weaker. Forget it. If you're willing to come with me, I'll bring you out. If you're not, then forget it. Although I'm kind-hearted, I'm not crazy. If it weren't for Uncle Zhu Hao being reluctant to abandon the friendship between the two of you, do you think I'd be willing to bring you out? Uncle Zhu Hao, forget it. Since they don't appreciate my kindness, I'll just bring you out alone. ITLL, save me from being struck by more heavenly lightning. Chujiu took back the green jade porcelain bottle in Fuao's hand. Then she pretended to leave. Little girl, Lu Ji has always been a person who speaks without thinking. If she doesn't believe me, I'll believe for her. Don't blame us for being too cautious. After all, this is life and death for us. We must be more cautious. If we stay in this sword tomb, even though it's equivalent to waiting for death, we won't have a problem holding on for another few thousand years. However, if we go out with you, we might be struck to death by heavenly lightning. Tell me, can we not consider it carefully? Fu Ao lowered his posture and explained patiently. What you said is reasonable. Let me put it bluntly. Whether it's the Great Void soul-repairing formation, or whether your original bodies exist, it's hard to say. Moreover, even if they do exist, I might not be able to get them. Therefore, if you go out with me, you'll be taking on a great risk. Whether you want to stay here until your last breath or fight with dignity and hope, it depends on your choice. Chujiu told them the pros and cons without reservations, then took out a spirit fruit and started to chew on it. Fu Ao and the other two looked at each other. It was too difficult to choose. Zhu Hao gritted his teeth. Damn it. I've been trapped here for tens of thousands of years. What's the difference between living and dying? I can't eat or drink. There's nothing here except these broken spirit tools. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've decided to follow the little girl out. Lu Ji glanced at Beiming and then at Xue Wuji, who had a wicked smile on her face. She stomped her feet and said, I'm going too. I can't even enjoy things without my body. It's boring to live like this. Chujiu staggered. This big sister was bold. Her goals were too bold and avant-garde. Fu Ao and Ji Lu looked at each other. Since both of them have agreed, we're willing to go out with you. However, not all of our men are willing to go with us. We need to ask for their opinion. Chujiu nodded. Of course. We will wait for your news here. Fu Ao and the other three nodded and dispersed. The people who were fighting with the remnant souls were suddenly enveloped in the black fog. They had no choice but to temporarily stop their attacks. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Fu Ao and the other three gathered their remnant soul followers and told them about what had happened. The remnant souls immediately exploded into discussion. Some were willing to go with them, while others were willing to stay. At this time, Ji Lu sneered and said, Do you think you can hold off wave after wave of cultivators if you stayed? In the end, you will still die. Why don't you follow us and fight together? Chapter 766. I'm rich. Zhu Hao and Lu Ji were puzzled. Ji Lu rarely expressed his opinion, so why was he acting so strangely this time? Fu Ao was a meticulous person. He knew what Ji Lu was planning with just a little thought. If all the remnant souls followed the little girl out, the spirit tools here would naturally have to be taken away. If a portion of the remnant souls were left behind, the spirit tools would not be able to be taken away. This old man was the most greedy. He probably could not bear to part with those spirit tools. The remnant souls were already wavering. After hearing what Ji Lu said, they agreed to go out with him. Fu Ao and the other three saw that everyone had agreed, so they came to see Chujiu. Little girl, all the remnant souls agreed to go with you. What do you think we should do next? Fu Ao asked Chujiu. We only need to do two things well. First, the fewer people who know about you going out with me, the better. It's best if we can think of a way to cover our tracks. Second, the spirit tools here are essential to your future. Naturally, you have to bring them with you. We have to think of a way to collect all the spirit tools, Chujiu said with a smile. When the four of them, especially Ji Lu, heard the hidden meaning in Chujiu's words, he said that these spirit tools were left to them in the future. They were very excited. They thought that Chujiu would blackmail them and take at least half of the spirit tools. This little girl was really kind-hearted. How would they know that Chujiu had always been the type who would sell you and let you help count the money? If she did not want it now, it meant that she did not want it in the future. Moreover, when they were outside, it was not up to her to decide. They could do whatever they wanted. These remnant souls had been stuck there for a long time, so they naturally became a little naive. The second thing is easy. We know where the spiritual artifacts are hiding. You just need to follow us and put them away. As for the first thing, it's not easy. If we hide in the jade bottle, they will notice that something's strange, Fueo said with a frown. What are you trapping them in now? Chujiu pointed at the black fog in the distance. That's the black fog that we created with our feelings of resentment and obsession. However, it won't last for long. At most, it will last for 4 hours. Chujiu rolled her eyes. After the black fog has dispersed, you can tell the remnant souls how to resist it. The four of you will lead us to the innermost part of the tomb to collect spirit tools. It will probably take a few days to collect most of them. Let them pick up the rest. When the ancient sword tomb is about to close, they will naturally have to leave. This place is at least 5 days away from the exit. When the time comes, I will find an opportunity to return and take you away. Fu Ao and the other three did not have a better idea, so they could only agree with Chujiu's idea. The four of them brought Chujiu and the others to a place where the cultivators could not see them, and began to pick up the spirit tools. There was no need to search. These remnant souls had stayed here for tens of thousands of years, and knew the locations of the spirit tools like the back of their hands. Regardless of whether it was a spirit tool or an immortal tool, none of them were fully hidden from the souls. Ji Lu was afraid that these spirit tools would be seized by Beiming and the others, so he stated that they had to be kept in Chujiu's storage ring. Although the spirit tools didn't like Chujiu, with the remnant souls at her side, they stated that Chujiu was temporarily keeping them and not making them acknowledge her as their master. That was why Chujiu reluctantly kept these spirit tools into her storage ring. Chujiu was very excited at first. Her mind was filled with the words, "I'm rich." Later she became numb. Looking at these spirit tools was like looking at cabbages. By the way, I heard that the divine weapon, the divine god axe, once appeared here. Is it still here now? Chujiu asked curiously. Chapter 767. Collapse Sword Tomb, Divine God Axe? That little guy was indeed here, but it was too rebellious. It left this area thousands of years ago, and went to a place where there were no remnant souls. After it was discovered by those cultivators, it triggered a fierce battle. When we rushed there after hearing the news, the little guy was already gone. I don't know whether it was taken by someone or had destroyed itself. Zhu Hao sighed and said. Beiming and Shui Wuji did not have much hope at first, so they were not too disappointed. On the contrary, Chujiu, who was originally thinking of using the divine god axe to cut the merman's chains, was very disappointed when she heard that it was gone. From that day on, Chujiu began to hoard spirit tools. She did not even need to pick them up. They willingly jumped into Chujiu's storage ring with a whoosh. Although Chujiu tried her best to restrain herself, her smile was so wide the corner of her mouth was almost reaching her ears. And Feng and secret agent Huahua looked at each other. What Miss Jiu said was true. The one who smiled the last was the one who smiled the best. Miss Jiu had struck it big this time. All the spirit tools of all the forces in the Azure Mystic Continent added together were not as many as the amount she currently had with her now. Moreover, the spirit tools in her hands were all spirit tools with a tool spirit, making even the lowliest one a high-grade spirit tool. Even in the Tianyuan continent, The number of spirit tools currently in Miss Zhou's hands was comparable to the number of spirit tools in a large sect. Chujiu had almost picked up all the spirit tools, so she returned, ready to see the situation between the cultivators and remnant souls. From afar, Chujiu could see that the cultivators and remnant souls were still fighting, but these remnant souls did not fight with any purpose other than to delay the cultivators' search. Chujiu thought of an excuse, and was about to walk over when suddenly, the ground began to collapse. Purple lightning kept striking the enchantment above her head. What's going on? Oh my god, is this place going to collapse? Hurry up and run. If you don't run, you'll die. How is this possible? This is an ancient sword tomb that has existed for tens of thousands of years. How could it collapse for no reason? The cultivators kept running toward the exit, and it was suddenly chaotic. Some cultivators fell into the sudden cracks on the ground, and disappeared while some were turned into ash by several heavenly lightning bolts. The remaining high-level cultivators desperately ran toward the exit. Those remnant souls were even more miserable. They were afraid of heavenly lightning, and a few heavenly lightning bolts struck some weak remnant souls and completely shattered them. Chujiu's situation was much better. The intensity of the lightning was like a joke to her. As long as she was careful not to fall into the cracks on the ground, she would be fine. Chujiu made a prompt decision. She took out the ancient green jade bottle and said, "Uncle Zhu Hao, quickly hide in here." Under the guidance of Zhu Hao and the other three, the remnant souls hid in the ancient green jade bottle that Chujiu held out. At that moment, the four of them were extremely glad that they had agreed to Chujiu's suggestion. Otherwise, none of them would have survived. "Uncle Zhu Hao, should I put this green jade bottle into a storage bag or a spirit beast bag?" Chujiu felt that these remnant souls were living things, so she reckoned that they should be put into a spirit beast bag. Sure enough, Zhu Hao said, "Just put it into the spirit beast bag. We are different from spirit beasts, so we can stay there even if we don't accept you as our master." Chujiu thought to herself that her spiritual beast bag was unexpectedly high grade. She could store beings that did not accept her as their master inside. However, now was not the time to think about things like that. She quickly put the ancient green jade bottles into the spiritual beast bag. Chapter 768. Let the heavenly lightning strike me. After Chujiu collected the remaining remnant souls, she chased the people in front of her and ran toward the exit. After running for 4 days and 4 nights, they finally reached the exit of the ancient sword tomb. At that time, the ground was still collapsing, and the purple heavenly lightning did not let up. Although the purple heavenly lightning strikes were very random and not very concentrated in a specific area, however, everyone's nerves were tensed up for 4 days and 4 nights. They were on the verge of collapse. Everyone began to feel that the ancient sword tomb was probably a trap because according to common sense, the ancient sword tomb should only appear every 100 years or so. This time, it appeared ahead of schedule and began to collapse. There had to be something fishy going on here. After 4 days and 4 nights of running, less than half of the cultivators had already lost their lives, and the survivors were mostly cultivators with high-level spiritual power. Some of the cultivators with low-level spiritual power had only survived because they had the protection of high-level cultivators. The elders of the Spirit Radiance sect were protective of their sect members. They had acted promptly to shield some of their disciples, so there were relatively few casualties. However, the thing they feared the worst had happened. The exit had already disappeared, and it was now completely enveloped by the barrier just like everywhere else. Some cultivators frantically began to use their spiritual power to attack the barrier. The result was as expected. This was an ancient great array, so their attacks were completely ineffective. Moreover, due to the loss of their spiritual power, they were no longer able to resist the heavenly lightning. Some of them were struck by lightning and turned into ash. Chujiu gritted her teeth. "Although I'm not a saint, I can't just watch these people being electrocuted to death, especially the people from the Spirit Radiance sect." Chujiu said to Beiming, "Prince Charming, I'm going to be a lightning rod and attract the lightning strikes. Don't worry, this lightning can't do anything to me." Beiming nodded. Although he didn't want Chujiu to put herself in danger, the current situation meant there was no alternative. If more people survived, they may help find a way out. Chujiu cleared her throat. Hey, everyone, listen up. I'll try to anger these heavenly lightning bolts and make them attack me. You guys stay away from me. Hearing Chujiu's words, everyone was dumbfounded. The elders of the Spirit Radiance sect understood what she meant. They knew that Chujiu, this little gremlin, had endured several hours of lightning strikes. The people from the other factions were at a loss. Although they heard that Chujiu had a heavenly thunder spirit root, if all that heavenly lightning struck her, she would be reduced to ashes in no time. Was this little girl crazy? Moreover, these heavenly lightning strikes would not listen to you. Why would they all attack you alone? Some people were selfish and naturally wished that Chujiu would be struck in their place. Some people were kind-hearted and could not bear it. Little girl, although I heard that you have the heavenly thunder spirit root, that much heavenly lightning is not a joke. It's better for all of us to split up than for you to carry it alone. That's right, little girl. Now is not the time to act tough. Don't mess around. That's right. Little girl, we are thankful for your kindness, but you don't have to take the risk. Chujiu's heart warmed. It seemed that there would always be good people no matter when and where they were. She smiled brightly. Everyone, don't worry. I naturally have a way to attract the heavenly lightning's attention. Moreover, I will be fine. You guys just have to be careful not to fall into the cracks on the ground. Everyone was skeptical. However, seeing that the elders of the Spirit Radiance sect were not very worried, they muttered in their hearts, could it be that this little girl really had the ability to withstand lightning strikes? Then let's watch first. If the little girl was in danger, those two young masters with great spiritual power would not sit idly by. Chapter 769. Wild Lightning. Chujiu deliberately put some distance between her and the others before placing her hands on her waist and shouting at the enchantment above. Hey! Isn't that lightning too weak? Why are you fooling around? Can you get a few stronger bolts to strike me? You haven't eaten for tens of thousands of years, have you? Why are your lightning bolts so weak? It's a disgrace to the lightning and thunder users worldwide. You guys have probably stayed in this sword tomb for too long until your ability to strike people has deteriorated. Compared to the lightning outside, it's like ant bites. Those lightning bolts are much stronger than yours. Oh right, the lightning outside is usually fired off by Wu Yun. I don't see Wu Yun here. Could it be that you guys aren't really from heaven but from the wilds? The corner of everyone's eyes twitched. Damn it, we have learned a lot. This little girl's scolding was out of this world. Although she did not use any swear words, her scolding was really fierce. Additionally, could the wild heavenly lightning even understand her? Would it really turn around and focus on her alone? This was not possible, right? Just as everyone was suspicious, those heavenly lightning bolts actually flew towards Chujiu. These heavenly lightning bolts were not the usual lightning produced by Wu Yun, but derived from the ancient Great Formation. After tens of thousands of years, the derived heavenly lightning had already gained sentience. After they heard Chujiu scold them, they could not tolerate it anymore. Where did this little girl come from? She dared to provoke them like this. She had a death wish. Strike her. Strike her. Strike her to death. In the eyes of the wild heavenly lightning, killing this little girl was as easy as flipping a coin. Since she was asking for it, then let her have it. Several heavenly lightning bolts flew towards Chujiu. Some people couldn't bear it and closed their eyes. It was over. This lively little girl was about to be turned into ash. Even some people from the Heavenly Gates sect couldn't bear it. Although this Chujiu had repeatedly tricked their Heavenly Gates sect, they didn't expect her to actually step forward in a time of crisis. She was much stronger than Su Yanran. Where was Su Yanran? Only then did the people from the Heavenly Gate sect realize that Su Yanran had disappeared. Could it be that she fell into a crack and fell to her death? Or was she struck to death by the wild heavenly lightning? At that time, several bolts of lightning had just struck Chujiu. Everyone heard Chujiu's clear voice shouting, "Hey! Can't you guys do better than that? You're too weak. What a bunch of weaklings." Everyone opened their eyes and saw that not only was Yin Chujiu completely fine, but she seemed to be even more lively than before. There was also a handkerchief tied on her head, and her two little twin tails were sticking up. The wild heavenly lightning was a little stunned. She didn't die? The bolts must have missed just now. Since they originally were not aiming at her, it was inevitable that they were a little out of practice. Again, they didn't believe that they could not kill this smelly brat. Boom. Boom. Another few bolts of heavenly lightning struck her. The people closed their eyes again. This little girl had a heavenly thunder spirit root after all, so she could withstand a few more strikes than them. This time it was definitely going to be tough. After the lightning stopped, they heard Yin Chujiu say lazily, "Sigh, I'm getting bored here. Can you hit me with something with more strength? The strikes you use so far are too weak." Everyone was dumbfounded. The little girl was still fine? Damn, the heavenly thunder spirit root was really strong. The wild heavenly lightning was not in a good mood. It was humiliation. After 2 rounds of repeated lightning strikes, they still couldn't kill the little girl. It was embarrassing. Boom. Boom. The wild heavenly lightning gathered a larger fist-sized heavenly lightning bolt and struck at Yin Chujiu again. It was over. Many people felt that Yin Chujiu would not survive this time. Those were fist-sized heavenly lightning bolts. The normal heavenly lightning bolts from earlier were just child's play compared to this. Chapter 770. Heavenly Lightning Fairy. The wild heavenly lightning ferociously struck Yin Chujiu. "Little girl, prepare to die. How dare you question our power? You're digging your own grave." Yin Chujiu curled her lips. She had thought that these wild heavenly lightning strikes would be very powerful, but it turned out that they only had so little power. They were simply too weak. Yin Chujiu did not even bother to dodge, allowing the wild heavenly lightning bolts to strike her body. Sigh. These lightning bolts are weak. I don't even have the strength to complain. Is this all you have? Hurry up and try harder, don't dawdle. Not only was everyone dumbfounded, but even the wild heavenly lightning bolts were also dumbstruck. Fuck. What was going on? Could it be that humans were all so abnormal now? That shouldn't be. They had already struck many people to death before, so why couldn't they strike this small girl to death? It must be because the amount of wild heavenly lightning bolts that they created were too small. If they combined their power, they would definitely be able to kill her. Thus, several fist-sized wild heavenly lightning bolts repeatedly struck Yin Chujiu for a full 2 hours. Everyone felt that this time, the little girl was done for. A full 2 hours. Not to mention a 5th-level spirit cultivator like her, even a peak 9th-level spirit emperor realm cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand it. It was truly a pity that this little girl had died just like that. The wild heavenly lightning thought it was all worth it. Each heavenly lightning strike would consume a lot of spirit stones. When it was over, they basically can no longer afford to strike anyone anymore. However, they felt that even if that was the case, it was still worth it to be able to strike that smelly girl to death. She dared to challenge the authority of their heavenly lightning power. She would be killed. The dust on the ground gradually dispersed, and Yin Chujiu's lazy voice could be heard from within. "You're done? Why don't you guys keep going for a bit more? I think the lullaby made from the lightning strikes is pretty good. I haven't slept enough yet." The wild heavenly lightning was so angry that it was about to faint. What? Lullaby? This is a great insult to our wild heavenly lightning bolts. Where did this little gremlin come from? She could not even be killed by such intense strikes. It got so angry that it wanted to die. The wild heavenly lightning wanted to get back at her, and wanted to throw more bolts. However, when it realized that it didn't have many spirit stones left, it could only abashedly give up. After a moment of silence, the crowd burst into cheers. Yin Chujiu is not dead. Yin Chujiu is still alive. The wild heavenly lightning gave up. Yin Chujiu won. Yin Chujiu saved us. This little girl is too powerful. What little girl? Yin Chujiu actually survived so many wild heavenly lightning bolts. We will call her the Heavenly Lightning Fairy from now on. Yin Chujiu was quite pleased to hear what the others said earlier. But why did she feel so awkward when she heard the title Heavenly Lightning Fairy? Ahem. There's no need for the Heavenly Lightning Fairy part. Let's discuss how to get out of here. Chujiu said with a dry cough. Everyone's mood immediately became dispirited. I'm afraid we'll have to wait for death here. This is an ancient formation. We can't break through it at all. That's right. Although the threat of the wild heavenly lightning is gone, I don't know if it's temporary or not. Even so, the fissures on the earth are still very deadly. Right now, there are only sporadic fissures, but if the ground starts to crack even more, none of us can escape. This is a no-fly zone. Everyone, don't be discouraged. Didn't you guys not believe that I would be able to withstand the lightning just now? Everything depends on one's efforts. As long as we work together, we will be able to get out. Chujiu raised her small fist to boost everyone's morale. In a difficult situation, morale was the most important. If they lost their fighting spirit, they would have already lost half of the battle. Chapter 771. Deep Earth Fissure Pit. Everyone was usually quite resilient. Otherwise, they would not have cultivated to such a high level of spiritual power. Hearing Chujiu's words, they could not help but feel a little ashamed. They had lived for so long in vain. They could not even compare to a teenage girl. Everyone calmed down and began to discuss how to escape the tomb. Chujiu used her spiritual sense to contact Little Blackbird. Then, she asked Little Blackbird to ask the remnant souls, Uncle Zhu, why did this ancient sword tomb suddenly collapse? That, we don't know. We originally thought that there was something strange about this world. According to the calculation of time, it should still be around another 100 years before it appears. Zhu Hao said in a muffled voice. Then you guys didn't find anything strange before? We didn't. Everything was the same as usual, and then it suddenly appeared. Then you've been here for tens of thousands of years. Have you found the position of the array core? No, none of us are proficient in array formations. We spent most of our time in a deep sleep to prevent our souls from dissipating. Chujiu frowned. After asking for a long time, she didn't find any useful information. It seemed that she could only rely on herself. At this moment, everyone was having an intense discussion. Why don't we attack it together? I don't believe that we won't be able to break through a gap. Just give up. If the ancient great array was so easy to break, the spirit weapons here would not still be here. They would have been taken away long ago. It would be great if we could find the core of the array. Elder Chu of the Spirit Radiance sect, Elder Zhong of the Skyblade sect, Elder Yuan of the Heavenly Gate sect. Are you able to find the core of the array? Elder Chu and the others looked at each other with ashamed expressions on their faces. How could an ancient array core be so easy to find? Everyone discussed for a long time, but still could not come to a conclusion. In the end, they could only let Elder Chu and the others who knew more about array formations try to find the array core first. 3 days later, Elder Chu and the others were so worried that they could not find anything. Although everyone had a lot of food in their storage rings, and it would not be a problem for them to last for a year or so. The cracks in the ground were getting larger. In some places, a deep pit with a diameter of several hundred feet had appeared. It was pitch black and a potential death trap. One of the cultivator's spiritual pets was the Eupatorium poison bee. He gritted his teeth and took one out and sent it into the deep pit. Although the Eupatorium poison bee couldn't fly here, it was small in size, and it might not die from falling from a high place. At that time, the depth of the hole could be known through exploring it. However, in a short while his spiritual sense connection with the Eupatorium poison bee was cut off. This meant that either the Eupatorium poison bee was dead, or the spiritual sense was blocked. Either way, if a cultivator fell into the pit, he would probably die. Chujiu walked to the side of the cultivator and said, Senior, I have some long sticky silk here. You can tie one end to the body of the Eupatorium poison bee, and hold the other end in your hand. This way you can more accurately judge the situation inside. Chujiu took out a ball of sticky silk. It was the sticky silk of the venomous giant man-faced spider she encountered some time ago. She didn't know how furry did it, but it wasn't poisonous anymore. The cultivator took the sticky silk and summoned another poisonous bee. After tying one end of the sticky silk on its body, He began to let the sticky silk down the pit. In the beginning, the cultivator and the poisonous bee still had a spiritual sense connection. When it was suddenly cut off, the cultivator quickly pulled the sticky silk back up. Chapter 772. This Chujiu was too smart. When everyone saw the end of the sticky silk, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. The originally tied-up eupatorium poison bee was gone, and a large part of the sticky silk at the end was charred. Although they didn't know what kind of demonic beast the sticky silk came from, it was extremely tough. There was either a strange flame or a sea of fire at the bottom. Otherwise, it was impossible for so much of the sticky silk to be burnt in such a short time. No wonder none of the cultivators survived after falling. They were actually burned to death. Everyone immediately felt their hair stand on end. They grew vigilant, afraid that cracks would suddenly appear under their feet. We can't go on like this. The cracks are getting larger and appearing everywhere. I'm afraid that we will all end up burnt to death if we fall. Yeah. Why don't we make a last-ditch effort and find a place to attack with our combined spiritual power? Beiming and Wuxia were also at their wits' end. The talisman could not be used here, so there was no way to inform their subordinates in the Tianyuan continent. Even if they could, they would not be able to wait until the day they broke through the enchantment. And Feng felt that it would be useless. In the end, it would be up to Miss Jiu to figure something out. After all, Feng had completely become a fan of Chujiu's ingenuity. He went up to the silent Chujiu and asked, "Miss Jiu, have you thought of a good idea?" Chujiu shook her head and then nodded. She then said in a low voice, "I have something for the time being, but I'm not sure if it will succeed." "Miss Jiu, tell me about it. I'll give you some advice." "I'm going to think of a way to completely enrage the wild heavenly lightning. It's best to let them strike me with all their might." And Feng was stunned. "Miss Jiu, why are you doing this? Whether it's an ancient formation or a current formation, there must be spirit stones stored somewhere being used to supply spirit energy. The wild heavenly lightning must have consumed a lot of it. Otherwise, the wild heavenly lightning wouldn't have stopped after striking me for a while. I have to think of a way to let them ignore that and continue trying to strike me down. I have to exhaust the spirit energy supply. This way, the formation will naturally stop functioning, and we will be able to get out." "Miss Jiu, this method will definitely work. Why don't you ask His Excellency?" And Feng's admiration for Chujiu was like a torrential river. How was Miss Jiu so smart? She was inhuman. Only Miss Jiu could think of such a method. No other person could think of it. What was this called again? Yes, it was called thinking out of the box. Since I can't find the core of the formation, then I will make your formation unable to operate. It's simply amazing." Chujiu whispered her thoughts to Beiming. Beiming's eyes lit up as he praised her. "Little Jiu, you are too smart." Chujiu straightened her back after being praised by Beiming. Her face was flushed red. "Prince Charming, I am very smart. In the future, I will make you look at me in a new light. I am not bragging. Don't mention the Azure Mystic continent. Even the Tianyuan continent combined is not as smart as me." Beiming, could he take back what he said just now? She was just showing off now after some praise was given to her. Chujiu gathered everyone and told them of her plan in a low voice. "Everyone, don't make a fuss. Otherwise, the wild heavenly lightning won't fall into our trap. Do you understand?" Everyone was overjoyed. They felt that Chujiu's plan was feasible. Even if they could not make the wild heavenly lightning exhaust all their spiritual power, it would still drain a lot of it. When that time came, they would attack the barrier again, and it was very likely that they would break through this time. This Chujiu was too smart. Chapter 773. Actors and actresses of Azurewood. The people of the Heaven's Gate sect were extremely convinced that their sect had been scammed. It was very normal for them to be tricked by Chujiu's intelligence. At that point, they felt it would be abnormal if they weren't. The people of the Spirit Radiance sect were even more deeply moved. It was still Patriarch Linghua, who had a discerning eye for talent. No wonder he took Chujiu as his successor disciple. Not only did this little girl have a heavenly thunder spirit root, But she was also extremely intelligent. Most importantly, she had a kind heart. They were completely captivated by her. Chujiu gathered her emotions and walked a little further away from the crowd. She put her hands on her hips and shouted towards the sky. Hey! Are you all dead? Didn't you want to strike me to death? Why isn't there any activity? Are you afraid of me? Sigh. Your so-called lightning really can't be compared to the real deal from Wuyin outside. Those Wuyin lightning strikes could at least burn the hair clean off my head. What about you guys? TSK, you guys are so weak. I think you guys don't deserve the name Heavenly Lightning at all. Why don't you just call them Heaven Static? Ha ha ha. The wild Heavenly Lightning was so angry that they visibly twitched. Some could tolerate the verbal abuse, but they could not. The wild Heavenly Lightning gathered in the air again and hurled bolts down at Chujiu. Chujiu's heart was bursting with joy. Those stupid thunderclouds still wanted to fight her? It was simply a dream. She was afraid that the lightning bolts would realize what her plan was halfway through. So she started to act like it hurt. Ouch. My meridians are about to explode. It hurts. Chujiu grimaced and shouted. The others started to play along. Little Jiu girl, hurry up and beg for mercy. Otherwise you will be struck to death. Yes, little Jiu girl, don't try to be brave. This is not the time. Little Jiu, you are a flesh and blood girl. How can you fight against the wild Heavenly Lightning? Quickly beg for mercy. Chujiu gritted her teeth. I can still hold on. I can only hold on for 15 minutes at most. I don't believe that this wild Heavenly Lightning can repeatedly strike me for 15 minutes. Come on, you bastards. Victory will be mine in the end. Boom. Boom. The wild Heavenly Lightning struck her continuously. This little girl was about to die. If they put in more effort, they would definitely be able to kill her. An hour later, Chujiu cried out in pain. Ah, my dantian is about to split open. I'm going to die. The crowd of actors began to ham it up further. Elder Chu cried out with tears streaming down his face. Little Jiu, hurry up and beg for mercy. You can't die. You're the hope of our Spirit Radiance sect. Fengming pinched himself fiercely, and then said with tears streaming down his face, Junior sister Little Jiu, you can't die. You can't fight against Heavenly Thunder. Hurry up and give in. Senior brother can't stand watching you digging your own grave. Shuewuji saw that everyone had a part to play. He didn't want to be outdone and howled. Little ninth sister, you can't be heartless and abandon your elder brother. Without you, your elder brother can't live. If it weren't for you, the sun would have lost its light. If it weren't for you, the flowers would have lost their color. If it weren't for you, I would not be able to eat or sleep. You must think twice. Nobody is more important in my life. Beiming wished he could slap Shuewuji, who was spouting nonsense. Other things were fine, but what did he mean by it was difficult for him to fall asleep without Little Jiu? Even if it was difficult for you to fall asleep, it was still because of other reasons, okay? Chujiu was very satisfied with the performance of the crowd of actors. She pretended to stagger, then she looked up at the enchantment. Humph. I, Chujiu, have never known how to write the word defeat. So what if it's wild Heavenly Lightning? Even wild Heavenly Lightning cannot break my pride. I will persevere. Wild Lightning, keep hitting me if you dare. Let's see which one of us gets the last laugh. Chapter 774. From being indifferent to becoming a fan at that moment, the Heavenly Lightning was completely enraged by Chujiu and had completely lost its rationality. This wretched girl was already at the end of her tether. As long as they put in more effort, she would definitely die. They could not let go of such a good opportunity to strike her. Strike her. Strike her to death. Seeing the Heavenly Lightning strike down, Chujiu felt extremely comfortable in her heart. Strike, strike. Strike as hard as possible. The onlookers were a little conflicted. On one hand, they wanted the Heavenly Lightning to strike harder, so that the formation would stop functioning as soon as possible so that they could escape. On the other hand, they were afraid that if the Heavenly Lightning struck too hard, it would kill Chujiu. After this incident, the majority of the people had changed their views toward Chujiu. Even the people from the Heavenly Gate sect chose to forget about their bad blood. Previously, Chujiu had tricked them because they had their own masters. They were standing on the side of their respective sects, and there was no personal grudge between them. This little girl was smart and kind. She looked very pleasing to the eye. Why did they hate her so much in the past? They must have been blind at that time. Boom, boom. At first, the thunder was very dense. Later on, it became more sparse. Chujiu's heart was delighted. This meant that the supply of spiritual energy to the array formation was not bountiful anymore. She had to work harder and get these stupid thunder to deplete the spiritual energy. Chujiu fell to the ground with a thud. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to die. The crowd of actors came one after another. Little Jiu girl, you can't be angry with your life. Just admit defeat. As long as you say something nice, these heavenly thunderbolts won't strike you anymore. Yeah. Little Jiu, just admit defeat. We won't laugh at you. Little Jiu, your scolding of the heavenly lightning isn't right to begin with. The heavenly lightning is supreme. How can you scold it just like that? Among them, Shuewuji's howls were the loudest. Little sister Jiu. My little sister Jiu. You can't die. Just admit defeat quickly. No matter how powerful you are, you won't be able to fight against these heavenly lightning. You only have one life. You must cherish it. Apologize immediately and just say that what you said just now about it being a wild heavenly lightning and stupid lightning, and so on are all nonsense. Hurry up. Chujiu smiled proudly and staggered to her feet. She pointed at the lightning in the sky and cursed. Puffed. You're all bastards. Unless you kill me, I will curse you for the rest of my life. You bastard stupid lightning. Stupid and weak. You can't kill me at all. The lightning was enraged again. They did not have the time to think about the consequences. They only had one thought, and that was to kill this stupid girl. They had to kill her. Boom, boom, boom. The lightning gathered again, and kept striking at Chujiu. Chujiu smiled like a little fox. According to this situation, in less than 15 minutes, their spiritual power would be exhausted. How could she be so smart? She had to admire herself. After 15 minutes, the sound of thunder became sparse. In the end, there was no movement at all. No matter how Chujiu scolded, no heavenly thunder appeared. Everyone was about to cheer, but Chujiu made a gesture to them to keep quiet. Don't be happy for now, lest those heavenly thunder tricks us. Now, everyone aim at one place and start the spiritual power attack. See if you can open a gap. Everyone was now completely obedient to Chujiu. They immediately chose a barrier and attacked it with all their strength. Chapter 775. Admiration and gratitude. When Beiming's ice dragon pounced toward the barrier, everyone was stunned. Although they knew that this young man's spiritual power was unfathomable, they did not expect it to be so powerful. Oh my God! He actually had an ice root spirit. Moreover, his spiritual power could actually transform into such a huge ice dragon. It could be seen how terrifying his spiritual power was. Shuewuji saw everyone's reaction and curled his lips. He raised his hand and a huge skull flew toward the barrier. Everyone was shocked again. Wind root spirit. This Chuling actually had a wind root spirit. Although the skull that he transformed into was a little terrifying, its power was not inferior to young Master Dis Ice Dragon. Some of the people from the Heavenly Gate sect broke out in cold sweat. Among them were people who had once gone after Chujiu. At that moment, they were filled with regret. After the incident last time, although Chujiu did not settle scores with them, it did not mean that she would not do so in the future. Putting everything aside, just these two young men could easily take their lives. At that moment, they hated Du Gai. If he did not ask them to assassinate Chujiu, why would they do such a stupid thing? There was also Su Yanran, who urged Du Gai to find trouble with Chujiu for no reason. This pair of master and disciple were not good people. When everyone saw that Beiming and Shuewuji's spiritual power was so strong, they became even more confident in breaking the barrier. One after another, they attacked the same place. As everyone attacked, the barrier trembled continuously. Everyone was overjoyed. Previously, when they attacked, the barrier did not have such a big reaction. This meant that the supply of spiritual power to the barrier was indeed insufficient. Everyone's spirits were greatly boosted. They all attacked the barrier with all their might as if they were on steroids. For hours later, cracks started to appear on the barrier. Although it was only about an inch, everyone was ecstatic. Even though the barrier had not been broken yet, it was only a matter of time. As long as they continued to attack it, the barrier would definitely break. For hours later, the entire barrier began to be filled with cracks. For hours later, the barrier completely disappeared, and a breeze blew in from outside. Everyone was so excited that they cried and shouted, "We did it! We did it! We can finally get out! Ha! There will definitely be good fortune after surviving a great disaster. We actually broke the ancient formation. This is all thanks to Chujiu. In the future, Chujiu will be the benefactor of our Skyblade sect. In the future, if anyone dares to touch her, we will not let them off. That's right. If anyone dares to touch that little girl, our Bixiao Palace will never agree to it." And our 7-star sword sect. Flying Tiger Villa. Star Moon Palace. The people from the Heavenly Gates sect wanted to shout as well, but when they thought of their own sect leader, they could only keep quiet. However, they made up their minds in their hearts. In any case, they would definitely not make things difficult for Chujiu in the future. Chujiu felt that this kind of overwhelming worship and gratitude was simply too great, right? This fellow felt that she was too short, and did not have any imposing manner. Thus she stood on a big rock. Her small waist was straight, and her hands were behind her back. She said pretentiously, "Everyone, there's no need to be like this. I only did my part. This is all thanks to everyone." Beiming stood at the side and looked at Chujiu's pretentious modesty. He could not help but laugh. He looked at her adorable mischief and his heart felt weak. He wished that he could hug her in his arms and get closer to her. At that moment, something strange happened. Everyone was actually thrown out by a huge force. The moment Beiming was thrown out, he saw Chujiu fall into a bottomless pit. Chapter 776. Beiming, you are a piece of trash, little Jiu. Beiming tried his best to save Chujiu, but he could not control his body at all, and was sent flying by the powerful force. Moreover, his eyes were blinded by a white light, and he could not see anything. When everyone regained their sight and got up from the ground, 15 minutes had already passed. Everyone realized that they were currently outside the ancient sword tomb. The ancient sword tomb had already disappeared, and there was only a flat grassland in front of them. The ancient sword tomb had disappeared into thin air. Just when everyone was cheering and rejoicing that they had finally escaped danger, they heard Beiming shouting, "Little Jiu! Little Jiu!" Only then did everyone realize that Chujiu had disappeared, and they immediately panicked. Where did Chujiu run off to? Could it be that she was not sent out? Wuxia was stunned at first, and then anxiously asked Beiming, "Where is little Jiu? Where did she go?" Beiming's eyes were red. "The moment I was sent flying, I saw little Jiu. She fell into a deep pit." "What? You trash! You saw her, so why didn't you save little Jiu?" "I'll beat you to death." Wuxia threw a punch at Beiming. Beiming did not dodge. He was sent flying by Wuxia's punch. At that moment, he was extremely resentful of his own incompetence. He could only watch little Jiu fall into the deep pit helplessly. He was a piece of trash. Wuxia was still angry and wanted to beat him again. And Feng quickly stopped him. "Young master, our venerable one is already sad enough. Moreover, the most important thing now is to find the whereabouts of little Miss Jiu. We'll talk about settling scores later." Wuxia saw Beiming's desperate look and roared angrily, "Find her? Where can we find her? This ancient sword tomb has either completely disappeared, or it has gone into hiding again. Moreover, little sister Jiu fell into the deep pit. The deep pit was filled with fire. Although she can resist lightning strikes, she can't resist fire. At this time, I'm afraid she has already turned into ashes." "Shut up. Little sister Jiu will definitely be fine." Beiming got up from the ground and punched Shui. Shui had originally wanted to beat Beiming up. Now that he saw that Beiming had taken the initiative to provoke him, he naturally would not let this matter rest. The two of them instantly started fighting. When everyone saw the two young men with profound spiritual power hitting each other like children, the corners of their eyes could not help but twitch. They were really too childish. Elder Chu shouted, "Stop. Everyone stop. Can you get your priorities straight? We're going through this and you still have the mood to fight. It's more important to hurry and find little Jiu." Beiming and Shui finally stopped. They knew that what they were doing was useless, but they did not want to think about Chujiu's situation. She was definitely doomed. "Young Master D, tell us in detail what you saw. We'll analyze it together," Elder Chu said to Beiming. Beiming told everyone what he saw. Everyone sighed when they heard it. The little girl was most likely dead. Not even mentioning anything else, just the bottom of the pit was filled with fire. How could she survive if she fell into it? Even if she escaped from the pit, it was unknown if the ancient sword tomb still existed, or if it had already been destroyed. Therefore, the little girl would definitely not be able to survive. Everyone tried their best to think of a solution in that dire situation. At the place where the ancient sword tomb had appeared, they dug a deep pit that was several feet deep. Unfortunately, they did not find anything. Chapter 777. The feeling of being roasted by fire. Although no one said it out loud, in their hearts, they were certain that Chujiu was most likely already dead. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Although everyone's hearts were filled with grief, but they still had to move on and live. They could not just stand guard forever, so they all bid their farewells and left. Elder Chu walked to Beiming. "Young Master D, little Jiu has always been blessed with great fortune. She'll definitely be able to turn the situation around. Don't be too sad." Beiming's mood had improved a lot. He nodded and said, "Little Jiu will definitely be fine. I'll just wait here. You can bring the people from the Spirit Radiance sect back to the sect as well." Elder Chu nodded. Even if they were there, they would not be of much help, so they left with the people from Spirit Radiance sect. Now only Beiming, Shui, and the other three were left. The first thing Shui did every day when he opened his eyes was to scold Beiming. "Trash, useless, ingrate, heartbreaker." Whatever was unpleasant to hear, he would say it. In the beginning, Beiming even argued with him a little, but later on he simply let him be. Shui was right. If it was not for his incompetence, little Jiu would not be in that situation. It was all his fault. "Your Excellency, Miss Jiu will definitely be fine. Miss Jiu passed through such a dangerous situation safely, and every time she does, there's some form of reward to it. You have to believe in Miss Jiu." And Feng comforted Beiming when he saw that he was becoming skinnier. Beiming let out a long sigh. "This time is different from the previous times. The ancient sword tomb's array should have exhausted its spiritual power, so how can it send us out? I'm afraid that another formation has been activated. Previously, little Jiu used a trick to exhaust the spiritual power of the formation. If the formation produced a weapon spirit, it probably wouldn't let it go so easily. Moreover, she fell into the deep pit earlier, and is forbidden from flying in the ancient sword tomb. I don't know if she can escape from it. Your Excellency, although you've said so much about the dangers, I have absolute confidence in Miss Jiu. Miss Jiu will definitely not die. If Miss Jiu really dies, you can slap me to death." And Feng's words were comforting to Beiming. However, it also came from his heart. He felt that how could a weirdo like Chujiu die so easily? She definitely would not die. Humph. No wonder little sister Jiu named you little madman. You are really crazy. What's the use of slapping you to death? Will your little sister Jiu come back to life after slapping you to death? If anyone should die, it should be Beiming, this trash. He actually watched little sister Jiu fall into the deep pit without saving her. Trash. Shui heart felt like it was being cut by a knife, and only by constantly belittling Beiming would he be able to divert his attention. Beiming was already numb from Shui scolding, so he said indifferently, "Shui, don't worry. My wife will only be little Jiu. If something really happens to little Jiu, I will never marry. After my parents pass away, I will follow little Jiu. Shui Wuji was stunned, and then he became angry from embarrassment. Beiming, do you think I am forcing you to die? I am asking you to protect little sister Jiu from now on. Little sister Jiu definitely will not die. Chujiu, who was being nagged by them, was hanging on the wall of the pit with no hope. That day, Chujiu was caught off guard and fell into the deep pit. The more dangerous the situation was, the calmer she was. When she was about to fall into the fire, she used sticky thread to fix herself on the wall of the pit. The raging fire below her made her sweat profusely. Sigh, is God punishing me for eating too much roasted meat, so he's letting me experience the feeling of being roasted? A few words flashed through Chujiu's mind. Roasted sweet potatoes, roasted duck, roasted whole sheep. Chapter 778. The expert in digging holes Chujiu was hanging on the wall of the pit, sweating profusely under the intense fire. It was all thanks to the beads from the strange grass. Otherwise, she would have been charred long ago. Damn it. Although she loved barbecued meat, she did not want to be roasted like this all the time. Chujiu thought that this was not the way to go on. Although there was light from the fire, the opening was still dark and she could not see anything. She did not know what was going on up there. No one came to save her. The rest of them were probably ejected. Before she fell, she saw that they seemed to have been ejected. Chujiu waited for almost 2 hours. When she saw that there were no ropes hanging down, she decided to save herself by climbing up. Although the wall of the pit was not particularly smooth, the angle was close to vertical. It was very risky to climb up. However, Chujiu had no other choice but to try. Chujiu made large balls of sticky silk on her hands, feet, elbows, and knees. She would rather move slowly than fall down. Chujiu's hobby of collecting sticky silk was a good call. If it were not for these sticky silk, she would have died long ago. Chujiu began a long climb. The sticky silk was very sticky, and every move was very strenuous. However, Chujiu would rather move slowly to be safe than fall into the sea of fire. Chujiu climbed for a full 5 days before she reached the top. Then, she sadly discovered that the top was actually sealed. Damn it! This place was simply not letting her live. Chujiu struck a bolt of lightning at the top of a cave in the distance. Although some gravel rolled down, there was no light penetrating through. Chujiu could only wave her hand and struck another bolt of lightning, but there was still no light. When Chujiu was about to strike again, she was so scared that she did not dare to move. This was because the wall of the cave where she was located had started to crack due to the vibrations. Fortunately, Chujiu discovered it in time, and used her hands and feet to cling to the newly exposed wall of the cave. Otherwise, she would have fallen down. Chujiu was in a miserable situation. If she did not continue her attack, she would not be able to get out. She could not just hang on the wall like a gecko. There was no guarantee that the wall of the cave where she was at would not crack again. If she was not careful, she might fall into the sea of fire. She was really in a dilemma. Just as Chujiu was frowning, Little Black Rat began to squeak. Chujiu's eyes lit up. She had almost forgotten that Little Black Rat was an expert in digging. Moreover, the holes it made were very small, so it should not affect the rock wall she was on. Chujiu held Little Black Rat in her hand. Then, she wrapped a rope around its tail, and wrapped the other end around her arm. This way, it would not interfere Little Black Rat from digging the hole, and would also act as a safety rope. Chujiu held Little Black Rat in her hand. Little Black Rat nibbled a groove on the cliff wall to give itself a place to stand. Then, it repeated the process and slowly climbed to the top of the hole. Little Black Rat reached the top of the hole, and began to dig with its teeth and claws. Chujiu saw that the hard rocks were like tofu to Little Black Rat. After a few nibbles, a small hole appeared. Little Black Rat was very smart. It dug a slanted hole so that it had a place to stand, and was not afraid of falling down again. With a place to stand, Little Black Rat's speed increased. In less than an hour, light shone in. Chapter 779. Escaping from the deep pit, little black rat was very alert. It was afraid that there would be some powerful demon beast guarding outside. It listened for a while and saw that there was no movement, so it climbed up. After little black rat came out of the hole, it looked around. Other than the rubble and spirit tool remains, there were no other demon beasts. It told Chujiu what it saw. Chujiu could not help but let out a sigh of relief. If there were powerful demon beasts guarding above, it would be hard for her to survive. Chujiu got little black rat to bite along the hole that she had dug until it was the size that she could pass through. Little black rat dug down from above, and its speed was much faster. A day later, a hole that Chujiu could pass through was dug out. Now the rope on little black rat's tail became Chujiu's safety rope. Little black rat used its claws to pull, and its strength was very great, so it was not a problem for it to pull Chujiu up. However, Chujiu was very cautious. She was afraid that the rope would not be able to bear her weight, so she threw a rope to little black rat along the hole, and this time, she began to climb up. After struggling for a bit, Chujiu finally climbed to the top of the hole. She did not dare to stay there for long, and quickly jumped to another place. She put little black rat into the spiritual beast bag, and started to look around. This place should still be in the ancient sword tomb, but it was silent. There was probably no one else around. Chujiu tried to strike a bolt of lightning on the formation, but it did not even produce any ripples. She temporarily gave up on breaking it. Chujiu let Fueo and the other three out and said, "It seems that we are trapped inside. Don't tell me that because I want to take you guys out, am detained?" Fueo sighed. "It is possible, but it is also possible that it is revenge from the heavenly lightning you tricked. If you didn't exhaust the spiritual power of the formation, how could those people get out?" "That's not right. Since I made the heavenly lightning exhaust the spiritual power of the formation, why did the enchantment appear again?" Chujiu asked in confusion. "Little girl, have you heard of the chain formation? It's a chain formation, where when one formation fails, another one will be activated immediately." Chujiu was stunned. She recalled the deep hole that she had fallen into in the demonic beast forest. When she and Beiming came out, the deep hole had disappeared. At that time, Beiming also said that it might be a chain formation. Chujiu could not help but feel a little depressed. She could not use the same method twice. Could it be that she was trapped there and would die? "Sigh, now I can't get out either. Should you release your men, or let them stay in the green jade bottle?" Chujiu asked Fueo and the others. "Although there's no heavenly lightning for the time being, the earth fissure can happen at any time. It's safer to stay in your spirit beast bag." Fueo thought for a while and said. Chujiu nodded. Seeing that Fueo and the others could not do anything about it, she simply put the four of them back into the green jade bottle. Chujiu first ate and drank a lot. Then she fixed a few ropes to two large rocks that were very far away. Then she spread a blanket over the ropes and sat on them. This way, unless there was a large area of collapse, she would be safe for the time being. Even if she fell, she could use the force to jump up. Chujiu did not dare to sleep for the past few days. She was afraid that she would fall down. This time she was finally safe for the time being. She asked little black rat to be on guard and then fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 780. The kitchen knife became a spirit. Chujiu slept soundly. After waking up, she stretched and put away the blanket and rope. Then she started wandering aimlessly. It was impossible to break the enchantment. Even the remnant souls could not attack it. If they attacked, they would suffer a backlash. It was impossible for Chujiu to break the enchantment by herself. Chujiu felt that there were only two ways around it at the moment. One was to cultivate hard like the last time in the deep pit of the demonic beast forest. When she broke through to the next level, she would insult the heavens and let it split the array formation. However, she could not guarantee that she would not overdo it, resulting in the heavens killing her. The second method was to find the core of the array. After destroying the core, she could naturally get out. This method was more stable, but it was less maneuverable. The ancient sword tomb was so big, who knew where the damn core was? Chujiu decided to do both. She would look for the core of the formation while cultivating. Thus, Chujiu lived a regular life in the ancient sword tomb. She ate, cultivated, looked for the core of the formation, and slept. This cycle repeated over and over again. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. There was no sign of the core of the formation at all. She was worried that she would fall into a crack at any time during cultivation, so she could not break through. Chujiu felt that this could not go on. Although she had something that she could not finish, the crack in the ground was getting more and more serious. If this continued, she would have no place to stand on sooner or later. Chujiu decided to try scolding the heavens. What if that old bastard could not hold it in and struck her? It was better than waiting for death. Hey, heavens, you old fart. Didn't you want to kill me? If you have the ability, come and strike me. If you don't strike me, you are a coward. Heavens, are you already afraid of me? You don't dare to go against me? Could it be that you've done something harmful, so you're feeling guilty? Chujiu cursed for a long time, but there was no reaction at all. Chujiu decided to put in more effort. Hey heavens, I've helped you write a lot of poems. Listen up, 1 2 3 4 5. Heavens is a scoundrel, 5 6 7 8 9. Heavens is an old bastard. A garden full of spring can't hold it. Heavens came out of the wall. The sun rises in the east and the rain falls in the west. Heavens is the most shameless. Chujiu cursed until her mouth was dry, but there was still no reaction. Chujiu sat on the ground dejectedly. It seemed that this old bastard had learned its lesson and did not take the bait at all. Chujiu tried to curse at the heavenly lighting for a while, but there was still no reaction. It was like a fist hitting cotton, making one feel so depressed that they wanted to vomit blood. The crack in the ground became more and more serious, and there were a few times when Chujiu almost fell in. Fortunately, she made preparations every time she took a break, or else she would have been buried in the sea of fire. Chujiu was so worried that she could not take it anymore. She was so upset that she decided to vent her anger. And how she did it was by yelling and eating. She set up a bonfire, took out a snow rabbit from her storage ring, and took out a large kitchen knife to butcher the snow rabbit. Unexpectedly, just as she took out the large kitchen knife broke out of her control and jumped forward. Chujiu was stunned. Damn, the kitchen knife had developed a spirit. The large kitchen knife jumped forward for a while. When it saw that Chujiu did not follow, it stopped. Chujiu finally came to her senses and quickly chased after the large kitchen knife. When the large kitchen knife saw that Chujiu was chasing after it, it continued to jump forward quickly. Damn. Large kitchen knife, stop right there. Did you see that I was going to die, so you want to stand on your own? You ungrateful knife. Chujiu shouted as she chased after it. Chapter 781. Told it to throw stones at its own feet. The big kitchen knife continued to leap forward as if it did not hear Chujiu. Chujiu did not dare to jump as she was afraid that the ground would crack, so she chased after the big kitchen knife step by step. Chujiu was also a little annoyed. She thought that it would be nice to run after the big kitchen knife, so she did not use the sticky silk net to catch it. The girl and the knife continued to chase each other. The big kitchen knife kept a certain distance from Chujiu. Chujiu felt that the big kitchen knife did not seem to be running, but rather, it seemed to be pointing the way. Chujiu's eyes lit up. I don't have any good ideas on what to do anyway. I'll try keeping up. She wanted to see where the big kitchen knife would take her. They ran for 5 days and 5 nights, all the way to the end of the ancient sword tomb. Little vegetable knife, where are you going this time? Is it the end? Chujiu said with her hands on her waist. The big kitchen knife ignored Chujiu and kept cutting a spot on the ground with its blade. Chujiu's eyes lit up. Little vegetable knife, are there good things in there? Get out of the way, I'll dig. Chujiu took out her pickaxe and started digging. She was wishful in her heart. Perhaps the core of the formation was under there. And if she could dig to the core of the formation, she would be able to get out. Unfortunately, Chujiu dug around and only found a book made of the skin of a poison-antlered antelope. Chujiu opened it and looked at it. She was so angry that her nose almost went crooked. There was not a single word on it. Was it a wordless heavenly book? Chujiu blinked her eyes. She remembered that she had heard that some books needed to be sprinkled with special concoction to make the words appear. She had no choice but to put the book away. Since it was made from the skin of a poison-antlered antelope, it was a useful thing after all. There was no need to waste it. The big kitchen knife quieted down. No matter how Chujiu teased it, there was no other reaction. It was as if everything that happened just now was an illusion. Chujiu adjusted her state of mind very quickly. No matter how bad her life was, she still had to live a good life. Thus, she lit the bonfire again and started to roast the rabbit meat. The rabbit meat was roasted until it was crackling and oozing oil. The fragrance soon spread. Chujiu mumbled while eating the roasted meat. "Sigh, I can't be too cocky. If I hadn't been cocky then, wouldn't I have just rushed out? How can this happen? Sigh. Although I've collected so many remnant souls, it's useless. They can't help me attack the enchantment at all." "It's not useless. At least they helped me pick up countless spirits and immortal artifacts." Chujiu's words suddenly stopped. Wait, countless spirits and immortal artifacts? She suddenly got an idea. Chujiu stopped eating the roasted meat and quickly let Fuao and the other three out. "I have an idea. I'll tell you what it is, and you guys can advise me on it." Fuao and the other three nodded and gestured for Chujiu to speak quickly. "I've decided to get all the offensive spirit tools and immortal tools to acknowledge me as their master. I'll command these spirit tools and immortal tools to attack the same place. I don't believe that I can't even create a crack. What do you guys think of my idea? I'll let this ancient sword tomb throw stones at my own feet. Didn't it trap these spirit tools? I want these spirit tools to break this cage with their own hands," Chujiu said proudly. Fuao and the others were stunned at first. Then Fuao said, "Little girl, although your idea is good, first of all, these immortal tools and spirit tools may not recognize you as their master. Second, you must have a strong spiritual sense to command these spirit tools. No matter how strong a person's spiritual sense is, it is impossible to command so many spirit tools at the same time. Last but not least, the most crucial thing is that the attack barrier must be continuously attacked. Is your spiritual power enough to support these spirit tools to continuously attack the barrier?" You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.